If you have seen my health versus armor Paragon Guide math video, you would have seen a very interesting take on armor versus health. We looked at basic armor and health very much paired against each other, and then ability armor and health compared against each other. Now, unfortunately, that doesn't necessarily take the whole picture into account, since health both increases our effective health for both basic armor and ability armor. I didn't actually do the math to see if you wanted to have an equal effective health increase for both basic armor and ability armor. What is actually the best way to go about doing that? I did allude to that at the end of the video with my recommendation of how to best build your effective HP up, but this is a amazing showcase of that math coming into effect, giving us the most health to basic armor to ability armor. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I am Sylphin. Welcome to a community content showcase. Now, ladies and gentlemen, this is done by Board Pyro here on the Paragon forums. Huge shout out to him for doing this amazing math. Nice, simple, effective. Boom, there it is. So a few key things that we need to understand here are these assumptions at the end. You want, or at least in here in the math, we are assuming that we want equal damage reduction for both basic damage and ability damage. Equal. We can't really tell if we're going to take more basic damage or ability damage. We can't really tell. If you really wanted to get really super duper nitpicky in it, I guess you could try to calculate that. But I think a nice fair assumption is to get equal damage reduction from both basic damage and ability damage. Now, if we're going to assume that these calculations here are include base armor for both classes at level 15, here is the damage reduction formula, and calculations include base health for both classes at level 15. So it's pretty much comprehensive at level 15. Here are the numbers. If you aren't at level 15, you can pretty much... You will see that you don't really have to worry about your level too much just because of what happens. So if you are a melee tank or a caster support that wants to build effective HP, and even if you're not, it actually doesn't matter, because take a look at this. If we're going to spend five points on defensive stats, meaning health or basic armor or ability armor, look at what the most effective HP is. 523 for a melee tank at level 15, including base armor and base health. It's all health. That is what increases your effective health against both basic damage and ability damage equally. Okay, now 10 points are all 10 go into health to give you 2,848 effective health. 15 points spent on defense, 15 health. 20 points spent on defense, and then it starts to get different. 18 health with 1 basic armor and 1 ability armor. Now, you can see that you need a ton of health. 18 CP's worth of health before you need 1 basic armor and 1 ability armor. That is crazy. That is what my math didn't really showcase, simply because I was looking at health versus a basic armor and health versus ability armor, not taking in the whole picture into account. My video was still true. It's still a true perspective on what is happening, you know, in the math, but this is just another perspective that is probably a little bit more relevant and something you should definitely take into consideration. Now, at this point, 20 points spent on defense, 18 into health, 1 into basic armor, 1 into ability armor. You need to take into consideration penetration from the other team. So at this point, this is when you want some health, armor, and ability armor. Now, if the enemy is going to be penetrating your base armor and your added armor, you need to take that into account. So at this point, what you need to do is actually take a little bit from health and put it into that base armor and ability armor in order to take the enemy's penetration into account. So if the enemy is penetrating, you do need more armor in order to take that into account, to then have this ratio, kind of, does that make sense? You need to build more than this armor to take that into account in order for this to actually remain true. So hopefully that makes sense. So on most of my tank and support builds, I struggle to get more than 30 points into defense just because those utility cards are just so amazing. Your wards, your cooldown reduction, Honor the Pure, Barrier of Will, Tempest Pearl, etc., etc. Actually have a tough time getting more than 20, 25, 30, 35 points into defense. So just take a look at this 4 columns. For a melee tank, look at these 4 columns right here. 27 health, 3 basic armor, 5 ability armor. Again, you need to add on top of that in order to take into consideration penetration. So if you're trying to spend 35, but you have to take into account the penetration, and you're actually, you know, you need this ratio of health, basic armor, and ability armor, but then you need to add in a bit more. Just hopefully you understand. I'm having a tough time explaining that. So there you go. That is that for a melee tank. You need a lot of health. 27 points of health in order to even warrant 3 basic armor, which is already base on a tempered plate. What? Like, that is crazy. Basically, you're not upgrading armor at all, unless, of course, you need to take into consideration penetration. 5 ability armor. That is base on a the opposite. I'm blanking out here. Instead of the Tempest Plate, or Tuned Barrier. Sorry, there you go. You need that. What's just based on that card plus just 2. Insane. So a lot of health. If you're a caster support, remember that they do have less base health and less basic armor. So basically, they're going to be the same as a melee tank, just much more health before you go into that armor. And as you can see, it starts off with basic armor, whereas here you can see 1 ability armor versus 1 basic armor and 0. So they just need to take into account that health first, and then they start into basic armor, and then you can see you can go kind of 1-to-1 a little bit until it gets down here to a 2-to-3, and then kind of a 1-to-2. So you can see, guys, a ton of health. That is basically what this says here, and that makes sense. Health does increase your effective HP against both types. So if you want to have an even balance between both, then you need to go into a buttload of health before any armor is really going to be better than health, because since health affects both, it makes sense. Remember, my video is still correct in that if you want to just counter basic damage, then my video is amazing to do just that. What I didn't do was take both into account, just because I thought that, I don't know, that was a little tougher to do. This math here would be a little bit more involved. I love that he made it nice and easy for us to read. Amazing work done by Board Pyro. Thank you very much. Please, ladies and gentlemen, the link to this post will be in the description below. Bookmark it. I have it bookmarked. Reference this. Maybe make a little notepad document so you can refer to that easily all the time, so you can make your builds better. Basically, 20 points of health before you even need any armor. Melee tank, a little bit more. I mean, that's a hell of a lot of CP. So really, it's fair to say basic armor till way in the late game. Way in the late game. Again, not the case if you need to consider the enemy penetration. There you guys go. Let me know what you guys think of this math and the findings here in the comment section below. Please like this video if you like it, dislike it if you dislike it, share it with the community, guys, please, and of course, subscribe. If you guys found this content useful or simply just enjoyed it, please subscribe so I can do it for you in the future. Till next time, like always, stay optimistic and positive.